Hello everyone, this is Stephen Ball here, and joining me on the line today is Woll. Hi Roy.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. So the webinar today, we're going to be running through, it's about 20 minutes, and we'll have some Q&A at the end as well. If you have any questions as we go through, both Roy and myself are online, so please feel free to pop your questions in the GoToWebinar chat panel as we go through, and if there's anything we need to cover off at the end, we'll be covering those through the live Q&A at the end as well. So sit back, enjoy, and we'll chat to you soon.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Roy Woll. I'm the president of Woll2Woll Software, and today I'm excited to show you a new product that is just about to be released. The name of the product is called BEAM, and that stands for BeaconFence Externally Advanced Mapper. Before going into BEAM, I'd like to talk a little bit about BeaconFence technology and the map designer that's currently in the IDE. This map designer is implemented when you double-click on the BeaconFence component from within Delphi. And once you get into this program, you can define zones and paths and beacons. For zones, the mapping editor allows you to define rectangular, circular, or polygonal regions. And what are these zones for? These zones are going to be data for your application so that it will be able to know when the users enter these zones, and you can get an event notified within Delphi and take some action. But the mapping editor doesn't really do that kind of logic. The mapping editor is for the raw data so that your application can actually use it. It also allows you to define paths and path nodes. And this is useful information for your application so that it will have information about when a user is near a path, and you might be able to display some information to the user based on him passing that location. And finally, it lets you define where the beacons are going to be placed. And this is useful for the BeaconFence to determine the user's location and support that they're accurately defined and their location is accurately defined as well. So you need good design tools in order to accomplish that. So there are some limitations of this approach for BeaconFence being inside the IDE only. Number one, the map must be edited in RAD Studio. So the person who wants to define the map must own RAD Studio. And number two, the programmer may not be available at the mapping site. So the mapping site could be some location where the programmer doesn't work at and doesn't want to have to go there and measure things and enter the data. Your company may also want to use a non-programmer to enter the mapping data. So it doesn't really require any special programming skills to define the data for the map and define the regions, define the beacons and the node locations and the information about them. Thirdly, the BeaconFence editor is not touch-enabled. This means if you have a Service Book or another touch-enabled device, it will not recognize any hand gestures or touches to the screen to zoom in on things or to move maps around or objects around. Ideally, it'd be very nice to have like an iPad or an Android tablet or even your phone and take that to the site and be able to enter your mapping data right there and have it be easy and touch-enabled so that it's natural to enter the data. And finally, BeaconFence is currently Windows only, and BEAM addresses that. So this brings us to the product BEAM, which stands for BeaconFence's Externally Advanced Mapper. Wall-to-wall, we've created an external map editor which creates XML mapping files, which are directly importable into the IDE, or you can load them at runtime with your code in your application with a method call. And BEAM is written entirely with the FireMonkey library. So the end result is that the executable will run on Windows, iOS, Android, and OS X. And it supports all the existing capabilities of the BeaconFence's internal editor. So this brings us to one of the exciting features of BEAM. It's touch screen enabled, so you'll be able to drag and drop, you'll be able to zoom, you'll be able to resize all with your fingers. And you won't have to use a keyboard to select objects or to select multiple objects for that matter. And it does have mobile app sharing service enabled for sending to email, Google Drive. So if you, after you finish your editorial map, you want to send an email, you can do that, or you can save it to your Google Drive or OneDrive and Dropbox. And it has a max layout mode, which means the map will be maximized in size for smaller devices so that you'll be able to even use an iPhone and actually get constructive work done in designing your map. There are some additional usability enhancements provided with BEAM. One, you can print the maps, which contain your zones and your paths and your beacons all in a nice printout showing your map and the locations of all information that you've defined. And number two, if you have a high DPI retina display, the beam will display the maps beautifully and the text beautifully on these devices. And number three, reusability. You'll be able to cycle through your objects by repeatedly clicking on the same area instead of picking up the wrong object. And it does have MRU history list of files that you recently edited. And your Windows layout is persisted so that you don't have to keep redesigning your layout every time you come into the program. Okay, now we're ready to show you the Windows version of Beam. So we're going to first load a project and then show you how to use some of the capabilities and some of the new ones. You can go ahead and reopen an existing project, but we're going to just load a project from the directory. So I'm just going to load Office with many zones. So taking the map that was shipped with BeaconFence, and I massaged it a little bit to add a few more zones. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you that you can add new maps, you can delete existing maps, and you can connect maps. Right now in this form, I have two maps. I have a main floor and a second floor. I can switch between the two. I can also filter based upon the object types, because quite often there's a lot of objects on your map and it gets kind of messy to try to edit them. So we allow you to view only the zones, or view only the paths, or view only the beacons. And then that allows you to fine-tune and hone in on the part of the map that you want to work on. Now with these maps, you have to enter the zones. Rectangular zones are just drag and drop. And if you're on an iOS device, it'll just be your finger dragging and dropping and sizing the rectangle. You can also draw circles. And there's going to be properties on the right for each object that's currently selected. You can change the color, for instance, and change it like that. And you can also change it to a non-perfect circle if you want to be able to stretch it or ease a zone. But you also may use this most of it, the polygonal zone, for those non-rectangular shaped rooms or areas that you wish to define. That works the same way as it does in the internal editor. You click on the starting point, and then you start clicking repeatedly for each point you want to be part of the polygon. Here I'm drawing, and when I'm done, I just right-click on it. And if you're on a mobile space, you won't right-click on it since you don't have a mouse. You'll click on the arrow key, and that will finish the shape of the polygon. And you can move that around, just dragging with the mouse. You can zoom in on the map by the mouse wheel. You can also define beacons on here. It works the same way as it does in the internal editor. It shows you the point, and you can place them anywhere on the map, and repeatedly as well. And then you can also define the distance. Now this is important. Some of the webinars you might have seen in the past for BeaconFence, it's important to define your distance in the map early on before you start working with it. Otherwise, you're going to be scaled incorrectly. So scaling the map is one of the first things you should do. And that works just by clicking on 2 points on your map and then find the distance between those 2 points. And I'm going to leave it as is right now, but if you made it bigger or smaller, you would see your objects would no longer be relative to their current position on the bitmap. Another difference you may notice from the internal editor is the object properties window on the right. It's a lot more compact, it's column-based, so you can see a lot more information on the screen at once without having to scroll. You can also hide the object properties window if you want to maximize the map size in your working space. And similarly, on the left-hand side, you can show the object tree. That can remain on the window as well, and you can select objects to the object tree, or just see what objects you actually have. And you can also select different maps to the object tree. But that's also available on the main map menu, so you don't have to use the object tree to do that. It also allows you to define paths and path nodes so that you can give useful information to the developer about certain areas of the place that you're mapping. And for instance, if I click on one of these paths, I can actually extend the path. I click on the plus sign, and now I can make the path longer. I can go up here, continue on. And then when I'm done, I click back on here. It means I'm done doing the maps. You can also decide that you want to connect two different nodes later on. So I can click on two different nodes here, and then I can connect them with this icon here, or disconnect them. Now, this is more trying to be ready for touch. That's why you'll see these kinds of menus, these pop-ups that will show on mobile devices. And for more things, it lets you file print, which means it'll print what you see on the screen into a printout. And I think that's about all I'm going to show you for right now. We're going to move over to the iOS demo now.
Okay, now I'm on my iPad. I'm going to go ahead and launch Beam. And when the first time you come in, you're going to be presented with a blank map. And to get around that, we'll have to click on the file options. And that's going to be located in the upper left-hand corner with a dot, dot, dot. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And there you'll see New Project, Load, Share, and Share as Image. I'm going to go ahead and show you what each of those does, but first let me load a project. Load it from the sample maps. I'm going to load the same project that we were working on with Windows earlier, Office with many zones. And now here's the project, and it looks exactly the same. Now we continue with the file menu. A file menu, we can also share this map. We're going to go back out. I can share it through an email. And then I will see an attachment of an XML file. An XML file could be sent to the email of your choice. I'll delete that. I can also share it to Google Drive. And then you'll see an attachment there, and you can upload it to your Google Drive. You can also share it as an image. If I share it as an image, then it will show me my ability to print as well, and also the ability to send an email still. So as in an email, you'll see the images with it, that will be in the actual email. Okay, now let's move back to the form. Go to the project again. Oops, there you go. Back in the project, and this is a lot more slick to edit. If I move the finger around, it's going to move the map. If I use two fingers and pinch, it'll zoom and shrink based on my finger movement. And similarly, if I click on an object, I'll click on this zone here, I can move this zone around, and then we'll follow the tracking of my finger. I can resize it by clicking on the handles and make it bigger or smaller, and so on. We can also edit polygonal zones in the same way. But notice right now there's a lot of path nodes that are right around this polygonal zone. I can move it around, but there's a lot of path nodes right around there. So before trying to change the shape of it, I'm going to go ahead and slide from the left-hand side to bring up this multi-view that has some other options. It has the object tree, but also has the ability to change which nodes are viewable in the map. Right now it's showing Edit All. I'm going to click on that and select Edit Zones. And now my map will only show me the zones that are on this map. And then I'm going to click on the zone, and I'm going to go ahead and start changing the size of it now. Change it vertically by dragging that bottom point up and down. You can drag a point on the side, and then go left and right. You can drag an actual point on the polygon, and it will change the shape. So notice I'll go up and down, and the shape is actually changing. And if you decide that later on you made a mistake, you can click on the undo and go all the way back to where you started. I also like to show you another way to select objects easily, even if there's a lot of objects that are nearby. Let me go back and restore the Edit All objects. And now notice the objects are pretty close, but I can actually select with my finger this area. And notice I got the wrong selection. I didn't get the polygon. But if I select again the same spot, it will cycle through all the objects in that area. Now this time you can see that I selected the polygonal zone. So now if I drag it around, it will move that particular object. So the idea is if you repeatedly click on the same spot, it will cycle through all the objects in that area. We haven't shown you the object properties display for the mobile environment. And that's accessed through sliding from the right or clicking on the dot, dot, dot on the top right. Let me click on that, and now you'll see the properties for that object. And here I can change such things as description list. And you can enter node information about that particular zone. And this is accessible into your application, which if you want to query and get data about that zone, you may wish to use that in your application.
can also change the color like we did on the Windows side. You can change that to dark blue. And you can close it up by clicking on the map again. I'd like to show you now how to do multi-select on the mobile space. Since we don't have easy access to the keyboard, we need to find another way to do multi-select. The way Beam does that is it uses a long touch to add additional objects. So let me select the objects on the right-hand side. There's 3 zones, all different colors. I'll select the top one here. I'm going to say it's selected. I'm going to select the second one below it and hold my mouse down. Now that's selected. I'm going to select the third one at the bottom, and now I have 3 selected. Now if I drag the objects with my finger, it'll drag all 3 objects as a unit. You may wish to do that if you have things vertically aligned or horizontally aligned, and you wish to keep them aligned so that you move them together. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about manipulating paths on the mobile space. We showed a little bit when we did it on the Windows side. Let me go ahead and do it on the mobile side. I'm going to go back to editing the paths, and now it'll show me just the path objects. I'm going to select an object, like right there. I could extend the path by pushing the plus sign on that button, and it will let me extend the path. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect a link between 2 nodes. I'm going to hold my finger down on the path right next to it. Now you see there's 2 path nodes selected. I'm going to disconnect them by clicking on the icon that doesn't have any lines. Now I notice that there is no connection between those 2. I can connect them as well by putting the connect button. Now they're reconnected as well. And then if I click this one node, I can actually extend the path by pushing the plus sign. And now whenever I put my finger, it's going to add new nodes to that until I said I'm done by clicking on the arrow key. I do want to mention how to open files on the mobile side. When we go back to load, what we did earlier is we loaded from the local files. But you can also load from the cloud. We have OneDrive and Dropbox. If I click on OneDrive, it will bring up my OneDrive, and I can go into the folders and select one of these files. Let's suppose I select Test Office Kitchen, open that up, and now I have Test Office Kitchen. Let me go ahead and restore my edit all to see everything on that project. But notice that there wasn't Google Drive on there, and there may be other cloud services that you're using that our product is not recognizing. The way to go around that is to go back into your Drive program. So I'm going to go back to my desktop, and notice that there's a Drive icon here, which is Google Drive. Click on that. I can go into the Google Drive. I can open up folders on there, and here's a Beacon Maps folder. I can select one of these projects. I'm going to select Office 1. It'll open that up, but it doesn't know how to open it, so I'm going to say click Open In, and I'm going to slide over to Open In again. And now I can slide in, it'll show me Beacon Map Editor. I open that up, now this is open. Then you can actually manipulate this file that came from the cloud. Another reason you may wish to open your files in this fashion is for security reasons. You don't have to type in your account name and password, give access to your files in your cloud to the Beam application. In this fashion, you'll be able to keep the security separate and open your files with the actual native application, whether it be OneDrive, whether it be Drive from Google or Dropbox or whatever other cloud services that you are using. So what does all this mean for the availability of Beam? We hope to have the Windows 10 version available by the end of March. It's currently in the Windows 10 application process for the store, and so is the iOS version. We hope to have the iOS version ready by early April, and the Android as well in early April. Android's not in the store process yet, but it has a much easier store approval process than the iOS version. In OS X, we hope to have that out in late April. If you wish to try out a product now before it's released, you can contact me at roywall@gmail.com or email to sales@woll2woll.net expressing your interest in trying out either the iOS or the Windows version right now. And if you wish to order later on, you can use www.woll2woll.com and go to our ordering page for our store. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to our announcement of Beam and to go over what features it has. And I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. Now, if you have any questions, I'd like to hear them.
Okay, that was absolutely awesome, Roy.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Now, I've seen a few kind of pretty cool applications coming out that have been written with FireMonkey, but I really like, I kind of love the stuff that you've done with this. It's looking very, very cool. And I believe you're currently trying to get this into the Windows 10 store as well for getting out.
Yeah, we actually got it actually on the store as of last night. So if you guys are interested in just trying out just the pre-release version, you guys can try it out right now just by searching for either Woll2Woll or a BeaconFence, and it should come up in the search results.
Okay, great. Well, that probably ties in nicely to Richard's question here, which is about how much does it cost?
The product's going to be $9.99, and that's going to include that's for each user license, but the user license will carry across the other devices as well. So if you have a license, then if you can do it for Windows or iOS or whatever other versions we have, it won't be an extra charge for the other devices.
Okay, cool. There's a question here from David as well. Obviously, a well-known component developer, and in fact, you've developed a huge number of really cool components in the past. Are you looking to move any of this into components that can be used in and embedded into end users' applications at all?
You mean, well, oh, I see what you're saying. Well, BeaconFence is what we're using, so that already is in your programs when you're building this library. We're helping you build the data. So our user maps are really more for not going into your program. They're really for the map designer to give the data so that your programs can have accurate information. So
yeah, I think the great thing about it being in the store is that if I produced an application using BeaconFence and I wanted my customers to be able to build the maps, that I can say, look, just go download this tool, and you can do it. So
yeah. It's actually, and also if you look at you actually try it out, you're going to see that it's a lot more responsive to this video. This video doesn't really show much animation because of the lag, but when you actually try it out, you're going to see what the excitement is all about.
Cool. One question I had is, obviously, it's the first time I've seen somebody opening something up from Google Drive and launching it through to the application. Was that pretty straightforward and easy to do, or is that?
As far as you're probably the developers here, it was a struggle at first, but the main idea is you have to change your template manifest file in iOS and define your type. And so it's really no coding involved. It's just basically just a few edits, like a paragraph inside your template.manifest file, and then iOS knows your program is able to recognize that type, and it will list it on the list. So if you guys are interested in knowing how to do that, I can show you the manifest file that we use, and you guys can do that on your own.
Sounds like a great blog post sometime. The other question I had is obviously being a component developer, writing applications that you're kind of distributing out. Did you kind of learn any nice things along the way that you kind of fed back into some of the components that you're doing? Because you're doing a whole host of components with FireMonkey now.
That's a great question, and the answer is a definite yes. We basically solved some of the needs that we really wanted, and even things like sharing. I mean, there are share services built into Delphi, but only right now can share a bitmap and have to share one file. So we wanted to share an XML file, and we also wanted to share multiple bitmaps in the same email. So we just kind of enhanced that, and that'll be showing up in our FirePower product as well in our next version. And there's other things that we added. We added a color combo because that was needed in BeaconFence as well to pick a color. So that will also be showing up in FirePower in our next version too. And there's a few other niceties that we added because of just kind of tweaks in terms of showing wait dialogues and changing messages. But those are more subtle and hard to describe. But yeah, it definitely impacted our component suite because we now really see some of the needs that we didn't see before.
Okay, cool. I think there's a suggestion for a future update here to, I don't know if this is something you kind of been thinking about, but as Dave was saying, it'd be really cool if you could just walk to where you want the boundaries to be and kind of touch the map and then walk off to the next point and then get it to actually map it in situ rather than drawing it ahead of time.
Maybe in terms of actually figuring out the distance by you walking, you mean?
Yeah, so I guess to do that, you'd have to load all the beacons into your application in the first place,
Well,
and define them, and then build it,
well,
and then that work would be done twice in some respects, I guess.
I know that would be nice. I don't know how accurate it would be in terms of until you get all the data in there, at least the beacon data. But I mean, my thoughts also were about actually the map program. If you're using it like on an iPad walking around, it'd be nice to actually show your location as you're walking around. That's not in the current version, but that's something we can do because your iPad can be tracked. You know, you're entering the data, so that's something we might see down the road of you. When the map designer is going to see his location with respect to all the objects that he's putting in.
Yeah, I guess with the beacons there, beacon discovery can be run to kind of find the beacons and then give you a list of them, and you can then just place them onto the map.
Yeah,
So
I think that would be ideal if you can do it simultaneously and see your location from where you're at without having to, yeah, that's a great idea.
Cool. Christian, your message just came through blank, so oh no, it's hidden underneath. There was an enter sign. Yeah, if you get a problem with the audio at some point on your end, Christian, then the replays will be made available. So this is being recorded, so no worries about that. You'll get a link through from the GoToWebinar after the event. Now, Alf had a question here about maximum distances with beacons. Yeah, beacons, it depends on the building, it depends on what's in their way for how far they can transmit, it depends on the beacon as well. It depends on the power setup that you've got set on the beacon. Some beacons run just off a battery, some of them plugged into mains, and depends on how regularly they're transmitting as well, because the less frequently they transmit, the longer the battery will last and so on. So it really does depend on a number of different factors about how far the beacon's going to work and how many you're going to need inside, which is one of those things. Just get a whole load, give them a try, and see what works for you in your different area. Okay, another message here, looks great, love the multi-device version, which is, yeah, that's pretty nice. I must admit, I kind of, I've got some mind mapping software that I use, and having the ability to sync stuff between my Mac and my iPad is a huge plus for me in terms of working, and having the multi-device stuff and being able to share files and so on is a very, very cool feature.
Yeah, I think it's also necessary. If you don't have the ability to share, then what good is a mobile device? So it was important to be able to work out those technologies. But this is all. It's not cool that FireMonkey can do all this kind of stuff, and your application that you're running is very optimal and fast, and as my brother would say, it's very buttery, just the way it feels and the touching and moving things around.
Yeah. Yeah, and already you're getting some excitement from people asking and looking forward to seeing what comes next for Beam. So it sounds like you're going to have to get your roadmap published for this at some point.
Good idea. Well, we've been, madly getting this ready for release and working through all the hurdles of getting into the stores, and it's nice to be able to get onto Windows 10 Store and with a straight FireMonkey application, and I think Marco can too, had described the steps, and they work. It's in the store right now, and it's approved, and you can download it. Yeah,
and just kind of I think the comment was just being clarified. They weren't asking for a bitmap editor, just reinforcing it's really cool that it's a non-bitmap based editor for doing work. So.
Okay.
Cool. Great. Well, I say really, really interesting presentation. I kind of really hope it kind of goes really, really well for you with this, and certainly so keep an eye out for what is going to come on from this. If you want to see this webinar again, we're going to be online probably about 4.5 hours, I think it is, from now, for a rerun of this. So if you have got questions that kind of appear in the meantime, feel like you can come back and ask them again later on if you want to get a direct answer from Roy, or his email's on the screen at the moment, so just drop him an email over. Yeah, again, I've used Roy's components for many, many years. I had a whole stack of them back in Delphi 5, which made our application look very modern at the time, with some pretty cool sideways labels and so on. So great quality components, and definitely worth popping over to his website and having a look at the kind of cool stuff that he's got there, not only for BCL but also for FireMonkey, and kind of keep in touch in terms of things that you see and you want for beacon fencing. And obviously, if you are interested in beacon fencing itself, then feel free to get hold of one of the sales reps at Embarcadero. Beacon fencing is part of the RAD server, and at the moment we're running a promotion where you can get a free site license of RAD server with some of the upgrades. So and also a few additional months maintenance. Plus, I think it's about 10-15% off on Architect as well. So there's some really good deals on the RAD offer page, which will allow you to get easily kind of RAD server and also BeaconFence and be able to take advantage of this with this great product straight away. So great. I don't see any more questions coming through. Anything you want to finish off with, Roy?
No, just I'm looking forward to the future, and I really encourage you guys to try it out and just download it and play with it. And thank you so much, Stephen, for taking the time to answer the questions too.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, everyone. Happy coding. Take care.
All right. Goodbye.